Princess Charlotte was pictured in tears as her mother Kate, Princess of Wales, comforted her.
Princess Charlotte, the usually composed young royal known for her polished manners and picture-perfect poise, stepped out of her royal shell most touchingly. With grace far beyond her years, Charlotte broke character in a moment of unscripted warmth, reaching out to a group of children with special needs in a way that left the entire room stunned and deeply moved. What exactly did she do, and why is it her most defining moment? Join us as we uncover Princess Charlotte's unexpected gesture that took everyone by surprise. Life in the royal family. From the outside, life in the royal family can seem like a real-life fairy tale. There are castles, grand ceremonies, important events, and international attention. It all looks glamorous and exciting, a world far away from what most people know. But behind the traditions and fancy titles, there's another side that isn't as easy to see. It's the everyday reality of living in the spotlight, especially for royal children like Princess Charlotte. While most kids grow up away from cameras and public judgment, Charlotte has been watched by the world since the day she was born. As the second child of Prince William and Princess Catherine, she's been attending royal events since she was a toddler. People have seen her wave to crowds, walk into church on Christmas morning, stand on balconies during big celebrations like Trooping the Color, and head to school with her older brother, Prince George. These small moments have shaped how the public sees her: confident, polite, and charming. But even short appearances carry invisible pressure. She's expected to smile at the right time, behave perfectly, and always reflect the royal family in a good light. Unlike most kids her age, Charlotte has to live up to strict expectations. Her clothes are chosen carefully. People pay attention to how she stands, how she moves, and even the tiniest expressions on her face. Whether she's holding her mom's hand or glancing at her siblings, every action is caught on camera, shared online, and picked apart by the media. That kind of constant attention would be hard for anyone, especially for a young child who is still figuring out who she is and how the world works. Being part of the royal family doesn't just mean showing up at big events. It also means learning a whole set of unspoken rules: how to behave in public, how to respect traditions, and how to stay calm when everyone's watching. Royal children are gently taught how to do all of this from a young age. But no amount of training can erase the fact that they're still just kids. And kids have feelings. They get tired, they get overwhelmed, and they don't always follow royal rules. Charlotte has handled public life impressively well, but that doesn't mean it comes naturally. Her poise comes from the support and guidance of her parents. Prince William and Princess Catherine have taken a more modern approach to raising their children. In interviews, they've said they want their kids to have as normal a childhood as possible. That means taking them to school, cooking at home, letting them play outside, and encouraging them to talk about their feelings. People close to the family have sometimes said that Charlotte is the most outgoing of the three Cambridge children. She's confident, curious, and seems to enjoy public events. But being outgoing doesn't mean she's immune to feeling overwhelmed. In fact, expressive children sometimes feel things more deeply because they're less guarded. That may be why, despite usually appearing calm, Charlotte recently had a very human moment. She was seen wiping away tears at a royal event. The moment surprised many, but it also touched people. And no matter how royal she may be, feelings don't stop just because cameras are flashing. But was Charlotte able to control her feelings? Let's find out. Charlotte emotional feeling. Growing up in the royal family is never simple. There's a lot of pressure to represent a long, ancient tradition, to follow strict rules, and to always be watched by the public. It's a kind of responsibility most people will never fully understand. But sometimes, in the middle of all that formality, we catch a glimpse of something more real, moments filled with emotion, growth, and learning. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Princess Charlotte stood quietly next to her family, dressed in black for the serious occasion. She looked calm and still, just like she had been taught during other public appearances. But as the event continued, and the emotions in the room became heavier, something in her began to change. Her face, usually composed and expressive, started to tremble. her eyes filled with tears. And then, quietly and gently, she began to cry. The cameras, which had been recording every part of the ceremony, captured it all. There wasn't any dramatic outburst, no loud sobbing or sudden movement. It was just a little girl trying her best not to cry in front of the thousands of people, those standing there with her, and millions more watching on screens around the world. For a brief moment, everything else faded. The focus moved away from the royal event and rested on a very personal, deeply human emotion. Those watching, at the event, on television and online, took a collective breath. No one was quite sure how to react. It's rare to see members of the royal family, especially the children, in such raw, emotional moments. Usually, royal children like Charlotte are kept away from too much attention, and when they are seen, it's often in carefully prepared ways. But this time, nothing was planned. It just happened naturally. No one rushed in to block the cameras. No one tried to distract from what was happening. Instead, we saw a real moment of care. Charlotte's mother, Catherine, gently leaned down to comfort her with a soft touch and a few quiet words. Her brother, Prince George, standing nearby, looked over with concern. Even though they were surrounded by the seriousness of the ceremony, their attention shifted just for a moment, from royal duty to family love. The public responded immediately, within hours. Clips of Charlotte wiping her tears, Catherine comforting her, and her tear-streaked face spread across social media. But rather than criticize or sensationalize the moment, people responded with kindness and empathy. They didn't see weakness or poor behavior. They saw a young girl experiencing powerful emotions during a difficult time. Many viewers were surprised by how deeply the moment touched them. Some said they cried watching her. Others shared how it made them think of their own experiences, times they felt overwhelmed, moments of grief, and memories of childhood vulnerability. This wasn't just about a royal child crying. It was about a shared human experience, about feeling sadness that's too big to hold in. What made it even more powerful was the setting. This didn't happen during a fun, lighthearted event. It was during a formal national ceremony honoring Queen Elizabeth. The setting was serious, the emotions were strong, and the entire world was watching. And yet, in the middle of all that, Charlotte's feelings came through. Her tears, her trembling lip, the way she instinctively turned toward her mother. It all felt so real, so relatable. It reminded everyone that behind the polished image of the royals, they're still human. They feel pain, they grieve, and sometimes they cry. There was also something powerful in how the royal family handled the moment. No one panicked. There was no rush to fix things or hide what was happening. Catherine stayed calm and loving, gently supporting her daughter like any mother would. She didn't tell Charlotte to stop crying or to sit up straight. She simply gave comfort. Later, Prince William was seen softly speaking to Charlotte, resting a reassuring hand on her shoulder. In those moments, they weren't acting like royalty. They were just being parents. Commentators and media outlets noticed how important this was. It showed a more caring, human side of the royal family, one that values emotional health more than strict tradition, and parenting more than image. Their quiet choice to let Charlotte feel her emotions, instead of hiding them, revealed a small but meaningful change in how the royals connect with the public. What stood out most from the entire ceremony wasn't the military uniforms, the choirs, or the historic setting. It was that one quiet, honest moment, a little girl crying, and her family comforting her. That's the image people remembered. Not because it took attention away from the ceremony, but because it made the whole thing feel real. Did Charlotte follow royal protocol? Let's take a closer look and find out. Princess Charlotte's unscripted moment. In today's world, people are drawn to what feels real. That's why this one quiet moment stood out so much. It felt honest, like a breath of fresh air. In the past, royals were expected to stay strong in public and keep their emotions hidden. But times are changing. Now, people care less about perfection and more about authenticity. They want to see genuine feelings, not just perfect images. And when Princess Charlotte quietly cried during the Queen's funeral, that's exactly what they saw. Even if it wasn't planned, Charlotte may not have realized it at the time, but that small, tearful moment meant something. It reminded everyone that even those born into royalty have real emotions. It wasn't about drama or making a scene. It was about connection. It made people feel something. That simple act of vulnerability might have changed the way people look at royal children, and maybe even the royal family itself. Her tears reminded us of something powerful, that feelings matter, no matter your title or age. That even during formal ceremonies filled with ancient traditions, real emotion still breaks through. It showed us that grief touches everyone, even a young princess. On the outside, Charlotte was just one more royal family member attending the Queen's funeral. She stood alongside her parents, Prince William and Princess Catherine, and her older brother, Prince George. She wore a formal black coat and a wide-brimmed hat. She even wore a small brooch shaped like a horseshoe, a gift believed to be from the Queen herself. Everything about her appearance was symbolic, carefully chosen. But underneath all that, she was a little girl mourning someone she loved. The funeral at Westminster Abbey was a huge event. It was the first state funeral in the United Kingdom in over 50 years. Leaders from around the world attended. Millions watched. The Queen's coffin was carried in a slow, respectful procession. The air inside the Abbey was filled with hymns and heavy emotion. But for Charlotte, this wasn't just history or ceremony. This was her great-grandmother, the woman who had played a real role in her life. Queen Elizabeth, who lived to be 96 and ruled for over 70 years, was known to be deeply involved in her family's lives. She was especially close to her grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and Charlotte was no exception. Though the Queen kept a formal public image, those closest to her spoke of her warmth, humor, and deep love for her family. Charlotte shared special moments with her, behind the scenes, away from the cameras. Those moments were real and personal. In the months before her passing, Charlotte was often seen with the Queen at public events like the Platinum Jubilee. Observers noticed their natural bond, the way the Queen watched Charlotte with pride, and the way Charlotte lit up around her. This wasn't just for the cameras. There was a real connection. Children often feel love and comfort before they understand titles or legacies. For Charlotte, the Queen wasn't just a monarch. She was a constant, kind presence in her life. So when the funeral came, the sadness was real. Charlotte did her best to stay composed. She stood quietly, with her hands folded, followed her family through the procession, and took her seat in the Abbey with grace far beyond her age. But later, as the Queen's coffin was lowered into the royal vault at St. George's Chapel, the moment hit her. Funerals often become real in those final moments. The silence, the music, the final goodbye. For a child, that's when grief can go from confusing to painfully clear. It might have been then, with the coffin disappearing and the music echoing, that Charlotte fully understood what was happening. Her great-grandmother was truly gone. The feelings became too much to hold in. Even for adults, funerals are hard. The silence, the emotions, the pressure. For a child, all those feelings can be overwhelming. Charlotte had been prepared as well as possible, but she was still just a little girl, facing something incredibly hard. What made this moment even more touching is that Charlotte likely understood more than people might think. At her age, she was already learning about royal duties, tradition, and the importance of legacy. She likely knew how much the Queen meant, not just to the family, but to the entire country. So when she cried, it wasn't just about sadness. It was grief, pressure, confusion, and maybe even the weight of being part of something much bigger than herself. And that's what moved people. It wasn't planned. It wasn't staged. It was just real. It reminded the world that behind the royal titles and ancient rituals, this was still a family saying goodbye to someone they loved. The Queen wasn't just a ruler. She was a mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. And Charlotte, in that moment, wasn't a princess. She was simply a young girl who missed someone dearly. That feeling is something almost everyone can relate to. Many people have experienced the loss of a grandparent or great-grandparent, and Charlotte's tears reminded them of that shared human experience. Because of that moment, everything else in the funeral, The music, the readings, the silence took on a deeper meaning. It made the ceremony feel more personal, more human, and the royal family didn't try to hide or downplay it. They didn't issue statements or try to control the story. They simply let the moment exist, and that quiet acceptance spoke volumes. Clips of Charlotte wiping her eyes began to spread on social media. Photos appeared in news stories, but instead of being picked apart or turned into drama, most people responded with kindness and empathy. They saw her as a child, just like their own children, nieces, nephews, or even themselves at a young age, struggling to understand grief. What stood out most wasn't just that Charlotte cried, but how the royal family responded. So how did the royal family react? Let's find out. Response from the royal family. For decades, royals were expected to stay emotionally reserved in public. Showing sadness was often seen as weakness. But this time was different. No one rushed to hide the footage or change the story. They let it be. That quiet decision felt powerful. It said, without words, "This happened, and it's okay." People noticed. Many praised Prince William and Princess Catherine for how they supported their daughter. Catherine's gentle gestures, leaning in, whispering to her, placing a comforting hand on her back, were deeply appreciated. And while William wasn't right beside Charlotte at that moment, he reportedly checked on her right away. Their reactions felt natural, caring, and real. For many people, it showed a new kind of royal parenting, one that feels more modern and more human. This was a big change from the way Prince William was raised. His mother, Princess Diana, was known for being loving and emotionally open, but the royal world around her was often strict and distant. William and Catherine seem to have taken the best parts of what Diana showed, kindness, warmth, and emotional connection, and brought it into today's world. They've made it clear many times that their children come first, even when the spotlight is on them. In this moment, they didn't say that. They showed it. They didn't try to quiet Charlotte, distract her, or hide what was happening. They let her feel what she was feeling and simply supported her. Most parents can understand that, and that realness is what touched so many people. How did the public and the media respond? Let's find out. Public and media reactions. In the past, the monarchy often seemed far away, focused on tradition, ceremony, and control. But society has changed. People today want to see the human side of those in power, even royalty. Charlotte's tears gave people that glimpse. No speech or interview could have done it better. In a setting full of rules and rituals, her tears brought in real emotion. It reminded everyone that behind all the symbols, there are people with real feelings. And maybe most importantly, it showed that the public is ready to see that side and welcome it. The way the media responded made that even clearer. Years ago, a royal child crying at a public event might have been seen as a mistake or lack of discipline. But this time, the tone was different. The headlines talked about the emotional weight of the day, Charlotte's sensitive reaction, and the loving way her parents handled it. Commentators praised the royal family for letting emotion be seen and felt, for showing something true. That shift in how people talked about it says something deeper. This wasn't just about one little girl crying. It was about a bigger change in how the royal family shows itself and how people respond. In Charlotte's vulnerable moment, people didn't see weakness. They saw something stronger, honesty. And honesty helps build connection. When people see that royals are not just faces on coins or figures on a balcony, but real people with real emotions, they feel closer to them. That kind of emotional connection, as Charlotte grows up, she may not remember this moment in detail, but the impact will stay. It helped shift the way people see the royals. It showed that being open and vulnerable isn't a weakness. It can actually build trust and respect. William and Catherine's calm, caring response didn't just help their daughter. It set an example. It showed what leadership looks like when it's based on love and empathy. It gave people a look at a future monarchy, one that keeps its traditions, but also shows emotion, honesty, and heart. In the days after the funeral, royal photos showed Charlotte and her siblings smiling, playing, and spending time with their parents. These weren't posed images to change the story. They were simple reminders that she was okay, that her tears were just one small moment. Children cry. What matters most is how they're comforted afterward. Public trust is often built in small, unplanned moments like that one. Charlotte's tears and her parents' response touched people's hearts. They also showed that the royal family is slowly changing. It's becoming more open, more emotionally aware, and more in touch with what people care about today. This doesn't mean tradition is gone. The funeral was filled with ancient customs and deep respect for the past. So, what do you think about Princess Charlotte's shocking move? Let us know your answer in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.